Welcome to Future Back Drinking, a new podcast series from PepsiCo and Time. I'm your host, Dr. Athina Kanioura, and as PepsiCo's Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, I believe it's incredibly important to have conversations with today's industry pioneers about the technologies, innovations, and ideas that are certain to impact all of us. In this episode, I sat down for a virtual coffee with Roland Busch, President and CEO of Siemens, a global leader in technology and industrial innovation. With a career spanning over 31 years at Siemens, Roland has been instrumental in driving the company's digital transformation and advancing its position as a global leader in automation, electrification, mobility, and digitalization. Under his leadership, Siemens has pioneered advancements in smart infrastructure, sustainable mobility, and cutting-edge industrial solutions, helping industries and cities to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Siemens is nothing less than a technology heavyweight across a range of industries and has in recent years reached new heights thanks to the tireless efforts of Roland. Over the course of 3 decades, he has made it his mission to ensure Siemens remains positioned at the forefront of technology and digital transformation. Hi, Roland. Thank you so much for joining me today on Future Back Drinking. We like to kick things off with a quick cheers. And cheers, it's so great to meet you finally.
Cheers.
So many would say that, your personal success can be measured through your professional growth at Siemens. And you have been the first CEO with a primarily technical background. So I think it would be great for the audience to understand how you have evolved, what have been the roles that you've worked in, and also potential challenges that you have had to face till you reach the position that you are right now.
Yeah, I'm a physicist by education, and I'm not the first head of Siemens who has a technical background. There was maybe 30 years ago, there was another one, also a physicist. But my way was basically, I started off just during my PhD, I was supported by Siemens. I started off in technology, corporate technology. I moved on to automotive business, had a chance to run our automotive business in Asia, was living for 3 years in China, in Shanghai. And then when I came back, I got a chance to run the strategy of Siemens. So a huge opportunity to get to know all these businesses. And from that onwards, after 3 years, I was promoted into the managing board, running different businesses. Most of these businesses were in bad shape. So I didn't have the blessing of running a business which is running well. I have it now, we are running very well. But I had to fix a lot of business, and which is okay. It's more my style to say we start at some point and try to improve it. And then 4 years ago, I was selected by our supervisory board as the CEO of Siemens.
Wow, awesome journey, and you have been in every position. So, Roland, the company was founded in 1847, which I believe is the oldest company we've had on the show so far, which is unbelievable. In terms now of the company as a whole, how have you remained at the forefront of innovation and kept up with generational changes?
That's a very good one. I mean, surviving for more than 170 years is amazing. And it's not just surviving. I think we are stronger than ever. But it's a completely different company than the company which you would have experienced maybe 5, 10 years or even 50 years ago. So we made a lot of changes. But there's one constant in our history, which is transformation. I mean, we started off with a telepointer telegraph, which is what you would call communication infrastructure, with electrification, with power plants, and now we sold power plants. We were a market leader in communication technology. We sold it off to Nokia. And at the same time, we started acquiring businesses. So we didn't have software, except embedded software for our hardware. And for the last 14 years, we spent 22 billion euros in acquiring software, including the latest announced acquisition of Altair for 10 billion. So think about it. This is a massive transformation, and it's going over and over, and it doesn't stop. We keep on going. We are just about to make the next transformation to our company, and it's about the speed. This will be the fastest transformation ever in the history of Siemens because technology is changing so fast. Think about the speed of semiconductor development, of software development, AI development. And this is so massive that we have to stay tuned and have to be extremely agile in the way how we, number one, shape our portfolio, but also the way how we work. We have to come to an agile way of working. We have to come from a less hierarchical organization into a more empowered organization where you make decisions on the lowest possible level. We call it One Tech Company Program. The one is the specific one because we have to act more in concert to really relieve the power of Siemens. So we are there.
This is very powerful. And you mentioned a bit also, obviously, the cycles of transformation you have had, and they become much shorter and shorter, and you have to keep up and be agile. And of course, you also touched on AI, which is further accelerating the wave of transformation. But you as Siemens have been working on the field since the 70s, and you are considered one of the early pioneers. So what do you think AI's role is on the future of Siemens, and how do you embed in your vision and transformation AI in your product development and your applications, and of course, as you think of the future of workforce?
Yeah. So, one thing is clear. If you go maybe 5 years down the road, you will see there will be a difference between companies who are embracing AI and using it and who don't. So the train is out of the station, and it's just about how you're going to use it. And you're right, we are working since decades on AI. We have, I think, 1,500 AI experts in our company working on AI technologies. We even have research on it. People are writing papers on knowledge graphs and all that stuff. So we have also patents from the patent statistics. We are one of the leading companies in AI. So the key question is, how can we make AI usable in a trustful way on the shop floor without hallucinations, so can rely on what an industrial co-pilot does on the shop floor in running your machines. And you cannot have a robot sitting on the shop floor without a fence. This is not going to work. So making this technology hard, make it industrial specific for certain applications, and making it useful, though it really drives a business case on the shop floor. That's the name of the game. Managing grids, in managing trains, driving trains autonomously, but also running robots with a natural language on the shop floor. This is what we want to do together with our partners. Then you talk about what is the impact on people. We're living in aging societies. If you take maybe Africa or India aside, most economies are aging societies. And the labor shortage, in a particular shortage on skilled laborers, is so immense, and it's just the start. So that for me, it's not a question about jobs and endangering jobs with AI. It's more an answer to our problem of having a huge shortage. So driving productivity with technology, with AI technology, is something what I believe is a must. And we have the right platform, the right technology, hardware and software, and the right ecosystem, our technology partners, to make it work for our customers.
So as you see the importance of upskilling, reskilling, both for your employees, but also your partners, we have been partners, especially in the manufacturing space. What is the direction you are taking internally to ensure both your people and also your partners keep up to speed with the latest developments and make sure that they use the maximum of the technology we are providing?
So this is a reason why we are spending more than 400 million in education and training of our own people. We have a dedicated platform where we are training how to prompt, which is a very interesting element, how to use AI technology. We have for software developers, but also for everybody, that the way how you can use and should use AI technology in order to use the large language models with whatever space they're working on and whatever function they're working on. That's important. So to lower the barrier, to use it on the one side, and to encourage people, and of course to train them. So it's a lot of angst and anxieties behind, that's clear, but that fades away once these people start understanding that the way how to make their targets and how to achieve higher productivity is obviously in using technology. However, there's one common denominator, regardless what function you're working in, is it will change your job. And this is the whole thing about transformation. People very easily talk about transformation, but it's more in the sense, yes, we have to transform and maybe the others start first. No. This starts today, and it starts here, and it starts with me. And staying in this comfort zone to say, I know what I do, I learned my stuff in university and I deploy it for the next 40 years in my job. This is not going to work anymore. I rather go for a model where people study, maybe a little bit shorter, they go to work and they come back in the university, study again, and they go to work and they study again. So you constantly have to update yourself and stay tuned. By the way, I tried to do that at the same time. I had a coding lesson. I tried to code an app with large language models. Without my experts, I would have badly failed. But at least I got a glimpse on how they work and what they do. And so I tried to stay tuned as well.
You always have to lead by example so they can see kind of how you embrace also the technology. I want to pivot a bit because you mentioned, of course, one of the big priorities of Siemens is smart infrastructure, right? And as you walk by New York City or every major city in the world, there is no way that you cannot see how Siemens is changing the ecosystem of urban living and urban development. And very recently, I saw one announcement between you and Microsoft and Satya about this program in ThyssenKrupp. So talk to us a bit about what you plan to do and how this will change major cities, starting, of course, with Berlin and the urban development program that you have.
If you talk about the partnership with Microsoft or with NVIDIA, we are working with them on this Industrial Metaverse. There are many different ways, and I just sketched 2 or 3 of them, which I think it's important. Let's start with Microsoft agreement on talking about the industrial co-pilot, which is, in short, basically programming a robot on the shop floor with your natural language. So a shop worker, blue-collar worker can talk to a robot and say, do that job, or I want you to go from here to there and do another one. Or that you have a chat where you say, I have a problem here. And the system comes back and says, in the last 20 cases of this problem, we did this and that and it worked. And then you can go on. Or they even fix it or make a proposal how to fix it. The other dimension, when you talk about cities, and the best example is Siemens Stadt Square, which is a new precinct which we built. And we built it twice. We built it once completely digital. And not only the buildings, but also what's lives above and below the ground, the heating, the piping, you name it, the mobility space. So anything what goes around on energy, on mobility, on housing, including, of course, photovoltaics, renewables, reusing energy, reusing water and whatnot. And once we were satisfied with the way how you run basically a carbon neutral precinct, then we start building it and excavating. And once you start simulating, it's not only building in a 3D design, but it's also you simulate how it works, how it operates. Then you figured out that we still are not there with carbon neutrality, but people found out in a digital drawing that there's a sewage pipe which brings stuff away and it's warm. So if you connect it with a huge heat pump, then you can basically run this whole precinct in a completely different manner, how you manage energy. This is you can get once you start simulating. And the third element, which we are working on, and this goes more in the direction of NVIDIA and AI enabling technologies, is the Industrial Metaverse, which is basically a real-time physics-based digital twin of a factory. And it's real time at any point in time. So it really behaves like the real thing. It's a massive driver of productivity, but also of innovation, if you really think it through.
No, it's a major innovation. And as I'm thinking also, the number of factories we have, right? That would be a game changer on how humans interact with robots, but also how robots now kind of help the whole kind of execution part of the factory. So if you think now of all the engagements you have just described, how do local communities embrace the technology that you are building? Obviously, I'm also European. Europe is very well advanced on taking on smart technologies and kind of driving a lot of the change. How do you see world adoption of these major changes? And are we equipped and the workforce is equipped to be able to take that forward?
So you will see a difference of the level of adoption and the speed of adoption depending on the countries or regions you are talking about. And let me give you 3 different views. Let me start in the West, in the United States. Limited regulations on the way how you use AI, extremely high IT savviness, less OT savviness. So operation technology is more the hardware stuff. IT is more the IT stuff. Tech companies, they make their living from data. So they know how to make money out of data. So therefore, their readiness to adapt, to use data and to drive technology extremely fast is very high. Yet it's not really so close on the shop floor yet, which is not that strength. It will come, and we try to bring that to the United States market. Moving on to Europe. And now I can speak a little bit open. I do believe we over-regulate. We regulate before we innovate. It's just too heavy of regulation, so that some companies like Meta, they even don't offer their AI functionality on their glasses because they don't know how the liabilities are. It's unclear regulation, so you cannot even be sure that whatever you do, that you're fulfilling regulations. So that's very, very bad. That holds us back. And it's not only the way how we regulate AI, but also the way how we are using data or allowed to use data. Yet on the other side, we have an extreme strong base on OT technologies. We have a super strong machine builders in Germany, in Italy, in other places. Strong car makers. We have strong, we talk about medical equipment. Siemens is one of the leading technologies there. So therefore, I believe if Europe doesn't make a change here in using the regulations on the one side, and on the other side, leveraging the OT capabilities and bring them into contact with AI, then we would slow down or fall behind. Now I'm shifting to China, a very different place. As you know, there are technology restrictions from the United States. They don't allow the latest and greatest GPUs to go to China. So their compute capabilities in China are lacking behind. But what I see there is they make a workaround. They still have some capabilities, they upgrade them. They are still maybe one node behind, maybe two nodes behind in terms of performance. But they will develop smarter algorithms. How can you use less compute power because you just curate your data first? So therefore, that you are extremely smart and innovative and fast in order to make another way of using it. Coming to data, if the government wants it, and this is an example for the healthcare system, they open their data, the patient data, to startups in order to make a productivity reading of the MR scans in order to provide more healthcare service to their people. They have 1.3 billion people, aging society. They don't have enough doctors. They can't buy enough equipment, but they don't have the doctors to read it. So they give the data, they release it for the benefit of the customer at the end of the day. But on the other side, for some data, you cannot access them. They have a clear regulation. So they're sitting somewhere in between, but it's a completely different animal. So therefore, depending on where you go, you see different ways of development and speed.
Wonderful. Now, I want to pivot a bit to you. As we discussed, you're now, 31 years in the company. Obviously, you want to leave a legacy behind. So if you were to think future milestones of this organization, which you touched slightly, what do you say is probably the biggest innovation that you aspire to be part of your legacy?
Since we are such a company with a broad portfolio, I give you a couple of ideas what I hope the legacy would bring. Let me start with our mobility business. One is signaling in the cloud. So signaling systems are SID level 4, or one of the highest level of cybersecurity because it's about running trains. You don't want to have that hacked. And we are the first company bringing signaling in the cloud. What you basically can do, you can run a whole country out of one cloud system. You don't need signals anymore. You can provide 20% higher capacity on the very same line, saving money, and even have a higher security level. This is mind-blowing technology, which we are already bringing to the market, and I believe this is the future. Another one would be the Industrial Metaverse. I hope that we're coming as close as possible from a digital twin to this really comprehensive view of physics-based, real-time, photorealistic representations of a whole plant. We can do that for cells, but maybe for plants. And maybe the last one on healthcare, two innovations which I'm really proud of is a photon counting computer tomograph. Currently, you use a certain sensing technology which translates X-rays into optical signals. And these sensors, they count each individual X-ray signal, which is higher resolution and lower dose. And the last one is the magnetom flow. Normally, you need thousands of liters of helium to cool down a magnet for a 1.5 Tesla MR scan. We brought it down to a liter and having a same picture quality using AI technologies. So we can run a 1.5 Tesla magnetom, which provides pictures which are as good as a 3.5 Tesla magnet. So it's using AI technology and a completely new way to cool it. So if that's legacy is what I leave behind in terms of innovation and scaling in the market, I would be proud.
Well, that's definitely legacy, I can tell you. And I'm pretty sure after the podcast, everyone will go and search for the products of Siemens, because I think people have a certain perception of what you are doing as an organization, but you have educated us on every part of the business right now, which is a very exciting development for the industry and, of course, for the company that you're leading. Okay, now it's time for our lightning round. At the end of each episode, we ask a few quick hitting questions to give our listeners the chance to get to know our guests on a more personal level. Okay, are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
My first question. I know you grew up in Germany, but also in a small city in Germany. So how has that influenced the way you are running the company and also kind of the way you have developed the technology for big cities?
Yeah, well, number one is the city has 110,000 inhabitants, and this city is about Siemens and university. So 40,000 students, and the rest is Siemens and maybe some other stuff, but it's a Siemens city. And if you grow up in this city, then you say, of course, I work for Siemens, or you say, no, it's too much of Siemens. I was of the later. I never wanted to start there. But, you never know how it ends up. I met so many interesting, smart and brilliant people that also during my PhD from Siemens, that I started working there. But then after a short time, I was transferred to China and lived in Shanghai, in a city which is 20 million or 30 million people, which is a completely different context. What I learned is, regardless where you live, you always have your own small environment. You go to work, you have your grocery stores and your stuff. So the city shrinks to a small one because you cannot experience a 20 million city. Yet what I learned is that living in small cities and big cities, they all have something in common. You need to really optimize the way how you run the energy system, the mobility system, the housing. Everybody has a carbon neutral target and whatnot. So you really see a reduplication of technology wherever you go.
So you're not just 31 years with Siemens, you are a lifer. You grew up with Siemens.
Indeed.
Okay, so second question is, if you could time travel in any era where we have had this industrial revolution and the technology has changed the world, which one would it be?
If the question is era in history, I think I would choose the second industrial revolution, where basically electrical power was replacing steam. Why that? Because and many people don't really get this point. When you run a manufacturing site on a steam engine, it's basically one axis which controls all the moves along this axis. Once you have electricity, you can detach lines because you can put a motor wherever you want, just put a cable there and you go. So you're releasing the requirement of run along one axis which rotates in one certain speed, and really open it into a completely new space. To experience how they reshape their shop floor and so on, that would be mind-blowing. If it would be about a futuristic trip, which I would prefer rather than going to the back, I would love to see in 10 years from now or 15 years from now, how would AI change our world? And how far would we go in the space, and how would technology change?
Awesome. That's how we call it, Future Back, the podcast. Okay, if you disconnect from technology, how do you disconnect when you need a break?
So I disconnect in maybe 3 dimensions. One dimension is sports. I'm exercising regularly. And second one is playing guitar. I did play when I was young, and I started off playing again, which really brings your mind completely out of this normal way of thinking. You concentrate so much, and it's good. I'm not good at it, but I love it. And the third is reading, and then reading non-technology things, which is, I recently was asked what book I would recommend, and I very often come back and say, I would recommend the Machine of Life, which is about cells, how cells work. It's amazing. This is a complete different universe. It's just biochemistry. But I read also any kind of non-technology stuff.
Obviously, this wouldn't be a Future Back drinking podcast without asking you, if you were to grab a drink with someone, who that person would be and why?
So, If it would be a non-living person, so a person who died,
Could be.
then I would have picked Albert Einstein. I'm a physicist by education, and I would have loved to have a chat with him on his theories. But a living person, I would pick Lauren Flyman. Lauren Flyman, she's British, a 30-year-old lady, and she got into jump roping during Corona. And she has now more than 1 million or 3 million followers. She's brilliant in jump roping, and I do jump roping as well. I was going into jump roping as well during COVID. And then I kept on going. Now it's okay, but she's miles ahead. I would love to talk to her and maybe have a joint session with her while having a drink.
Awesome. That was a perfect answer. Roland, thank you so much. This has been an amazing discussion, highly educational, I would say, for both me and the audience. You are an inspiration. I mean, truly, you are an inspiration, and Siemens is so lucky to have you as their president and CEO. Cheers to an amazing episode. I hope to see you very soon.
Thanks for having me. It was a very nice chat with you.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on Future Back Drinking. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected on all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for listening, and we hope to see you next time.